Blockbuster Video. How can I help you?
Hi, yeah. Do you have any copies of Clerks?
Sorry, we don't.
How about Mallrats?
Sorry, no.
No? Chasing Amy?
Let me check. Nope.
Do you have any Kevin Smith movies?
We have Tusk.
Yeah, no thanks. How about Sharknado 3?
That one's due back today.
How about Babe, Pig in the City?
Oh, the movie about the cute little pig that goes to the city to save the family farm?
Yeah, that's the one.
Tape broke just yesterday.
Not my day, is it? How about Flatliners?
It's stuck in a DVD player. Repairman's coming between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. today.
Well, how about Titanic?
Titanic? Never heard of it.
Yeah, the movie about a great big ship that sank in the Atlantic Ocean in 1912?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Doesn't ring a bell? Leonardo DiCaprio? Kate Winslet? Directed by James Cameron?
No, try again.
It grossed over $2 billion. Won the Oscar for Best Picture. To this day, I still can't get Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On out of my brain.
Try a more popular movie.
A more popular movie? Wait a minute. Is this even a blockbuster?
Well, no. You called a number that used to be a blockbuster, and now I just mess with people. Gotcha. P.S. Unless you're in Bend, Oregon, there aren't any blockbusters, so stop calling me.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, Greg.
You know, a couple weeks ago, you had mentioned to me you saw a really cool documentary on Netflix called The Last Blockbuster.
Yeah, I did. Did you get a chance to check it out too?
I finally did this past weekend. It was really good.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see, how that phenomenon that was such a big part of in high school and to college and even beyond, and then it just sort of faded away, and I didn't know the story of really how or why, and it was pretty cool.
It was very, very interesting and very nostalgic because, you don't realize you missed something until you kind of see something like that, and you're like, oh, I do miss Blockbuster.
Yeah. And it was fascinating because I think the common theory that most people hold is that Netflix came along and put them out of business.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is some truth to that, but through the course of the documentary, you kind of learn that it was more about bad business and overextending themselves. I think it was
bad debt. They borrowed against it and couldn't pay the bank back.
Yeah.
Oops.
And even like its value to see that, at its height, there were over 9,000 stores. I think it sold for $8.4 billion.
With a B.
Yeah. And then in the end, it was like
$300 million to not Direct TV, Dish.
Dish Network bought it. Yeah.
For like 10%.
Or, just a fraction of what it once was. And it's crazy.
It was. They really covered the history of Blockbuster quite well. In it, and that was good. Very interesting. The irony, though, is you're watching a documentary about an in-store movie rental place on a streaming service. And you're like, it's kind of weird.
And there had to be like a certain level of like the network producer who agreed to do the documentary was kind of like, because even in it, there's sort of the inference that there was that point where Netflix was starting to make some, some inroads into the whole industry, had a meeting with Blockbuster's, higher ups, and there's no definitive details. There's speculation that they kind of laughed him out of the door. Yeah. And then, obviously the Goliath fell and, now David is the Goliath. So,
I remember, were you a big fan of Blockbuster or video rental stores?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was such a part of every weekend, once we got in that cycle of the weekend, what are we going to do? Well, we can go to the movies, or we can get some Chinese takeout and get a movie, just watch it in the comfort of our
Blockbuster
home.
And chill.
Yeah, exactly.
But I remember a good friend of mine when Netflix first started coming out, and I went over to his house, and there on his table was the two Netflix, in the package and in the mailer. And I said, "Oh, you did that?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's great." I'm like, "Oh," and I was just like, "I'd rather go to a video store personally at that." And I was like, "Yeah, that's not for me, thanks."
And I do feel like it was kind of a slow transition for me too, where we had a Blockbuster that was within a few miles of where I was living, again, towards the end of when the phenomenon was wrapping up. But we also had a 48-hour video that was within walking distance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was over a 48-hour video. It seemed like, multiple times a week, either dropping off or picking something up or buying, because they had their used discs that were always up for sale.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it was new releases that were only, maybe 2 or 3 months past when it was released.
Yeah.
So I bought a lot of secondhand DVDs. Yeah.
I think the other store, like we had Hollywood. Was it Hollywood? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had Hollywood and stuff. But Blockbuster had the most, wide selection of whatever you're looking for.
And I think they talk about that in the documentary too, the way that they set up the store, that they had their new releases all around the perimeter. Almost like at the grocery store, like all of the whole food is around the outside, and then all the junk is in the middle. But yeah, I mean, it was always a big part of every weekend, going and finding those movies.
One of the things that the documentary opened my eyes to was I never understood why the mom and pop shops closed. Because when we first started renting movies, it was, mid to late 80s at this little place around the corner, mom and pop store. And I was like, well, why did Blockbuster succeed? And I didn't understand that they had a deal with the movie companies to buy the at that time VHS for like $5-10 versus $100, and then they would revenue share the rentals back.
Yeah. I mean, it's from a business standpoint, it's genius, but it's just another classic example of where the small business struggles so much because the big company has this great deal where they can have 50 copies of every movie, and you're there with 3, and you can't get 50 because you just can't afford it. So it's sad for the small company. But, in the documentary, they talk about the one that remains up in Bend, Oregon, and how they had to make that decision as well, that they were a small mom and pop Pacific Video. They had been in business for 10 years, were successful.
They were bought out by Blockbuster, right?
Yeah. And it was kind of that decision of either you be bought out or we're going to put you out of business. And, obviously they opted to join them versus fight them. And now they're the only one left, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Definitely has a cool factor to it and a retro feel, I think. If it wasn't in Oregon, I'd probably go. It's a little bit of a drive.
Yeah. It could be a fun road trip, though, for Latch-Key dads to record across the country with the Bend, Oregon Blockbuster as our final destination.
I did look because the documentary, I guess, came out in 2020. It was shot in like 2019, but I think it came out in 2020. And one of the last updates they say is that they were open during the pandemic for drive-through. People could call ahead and pick up their movies. So I was like, well, I wonder if it survived through the pandemic. And I looked it up on maps, and sure enough, it's technically still there. And it opens up at 10:30 and closes at 9.
Yeah. And I mean, the way that it started as a family business, it went through the whole corporate world and the fall of the corporate side of it, and now it's back to basically being an independent, and that it has very much a family kind of structure. They have their Blockbuster mom, Sandy Harding, who has been there back even in the
15
heyday.
years, something like that.
And now like all the kids in the community that have worked there and moved on, and her own kids, and it's kind of a neat story the way that they've kept it going, and even their patrons feel that connect, sort of like back to the original mom and pop feel. It never really lost that, it seems like.
I was shocked that she would go buy the movies. Like they show images of her, video of her going to like Target and getting the movies and everything. And I was like, well, if they're not getting the copies from the movie studios, what exactly is, Dish TV providing to Sandy and that store?
Yeah, and I kind of had that same thought, and it does make you wonder if they're just allowing them to use the name at this point. And then it's kind of like they're just on their own like any other business. But to your point, the licensing and the rights, like all that kind of stuff, it does seem a little bit like, anybody could go and buy DVDs and rent them, which maybe I know there was a court case where the production companies said, no, you can't rent them in the early days. And then it went to the Supreme Court and they said, no, rental is okay, is acceptable.
Possession is 9/10 of the law. Right?
Yeah. So, maybe that's a question we can ask Sandy if we ever
we'll
get in touch with her.
Yeah, I was like, well, what are they? I guess they just, you can keep the name.
Yeah.
Which, what you had mentioned, that I think they have a website. The Bend, Oregon store has a website where they got lots of like cool stuff to.
Yeah, they really do try to promote the phenomenon of them being the last Blockbuster with, hats and T-shirts and, koozies and anything you could put a Bend, Oregon Blockbuster logo on. They have it on their website.
And one thing I did want to look at, it looks like they have a film festival there every year. I apologize. I should have looked that up for this episode, but it did look like that might be one of the, ways to keep things alive, local. You have a film festival and put out a big, screen and, show movies and stuff.
Yeah, which to the point of how Blockbuster evolved, and now that it is just the one store, it seems like they're kind of taking cues from things that Blockbuster did along the way to promote the bigger brand, which was they had their own awards and they'd have all these special promotions to bring people in. And the spirit of that seems to be alive with the store in Bend, where they have all these, events to try to, obviously there's the novelty factor of people just going, for tourism kind of things. But yeah, it seems like it's pretty cool the way they're doing the film festivals and stuff like that. Yeah.
Every time I hear Blockbuster Awards, I immediately think of Howard Stern and how he would brag for years that he got that one. Yeah. I wonder if it's still sitting on his mantle.
Probably. But, to that point, I thought it was interesting to see that at the height of their business model, they were just printing money. It seemed like that there was talk of an amusement park in Miami, which would have been wild if there was actually a Blockbuster theme park.
Hey, that would have been pretty wild. Yeah. They had so much money they didn't know what to do with it, I guess. Yeah.
I could imagine that there was just a continuous popcorn smell being pumped into the entire place. Everywhere you went, it smelled like popcorn.
That's funny. That was one thing they mentioned, that it has a distinct smell, and I didn't think about that, but I'm like, I can kind of vaguely smell, remember that smell of a Blockbuster.
Well, and I think they even mentioned that in probably most stores, they would make some popcorn, whether it be like just microwave popcorn, or I think some of them actually had like popcorn machines in there to really push that whole movie theater vibe. And yeah, I think it's effective. This is just a little side note, but in my regular work, I do work for trade shows, and there was one guy that every show he would go to, he would have a popcorn machine. Just because he wanted to draw people to his booth purely by scent. And he claimed that it worked really well, that popcorn was the best thing he ever had to draw people into his trade show booth.
Sure. Well, what's you go to a movie theater, what's the first smell that you hit? Yeah. Is the freshly popped popcorn.
Now, just again, like growing up, did you guys make popcorn like on a stovetop, or did you guys have one of the poppers, or do you remember?
We had one of those oil poppers when I was little, which was really cool to watch. And then we went to the air popper. And then later on, maybe towards the end of high school, we jumped on the microwave band. Yeah. But nothing like, we do this at my house when we watch movies. We do the air popper, we melt butter, drizzle it over the popcorn, throw some salt on there, shake it up, and it's so much better, in my opinion, than the microwave popcorn. Yeah.
Now the air popper you had, was it the dome style? That was like a plate, or was it the one where it came out of almost like a waterfall? Kind
of that was the other one. I thought was, that's the one you described, the flat one. Mm-hmm. I remember we had to put oil in that.
Yeah, we had one of those where I think we'd put oil down where the kernels were. Yeah. And then you'd put butter up on the top. There was like a little drip pan, and the butter would drip down.
Yeah, from the heat.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was with a friend in college, actually, and we were hanging out. And he's like, "Yo, want me to make popcorn?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he actually did it in that similar fashion, but in a large skillet. Oil, popcorn, and then he put a cover on it, and then it just popped up, and it was like delicious. Yeah. And I was like, I never thought, it's pretty much the same concept.
Yeah. Now, like way before we had the actual popcorn maker, I remember I can still hear the sound of my mom taking a stovetop, pot, putting oil in.
Oh, that's okay.
And the shaking of the kernels, so it wouldn't burn, and then it would get to the point where the lid would kind of just.
That's exactly what he did. Yeah.
Very
That's funny.
Very fond memories of that.
Were you a Jiffy Pop person?
Not really, no. I don't think we ever...
Yeah.
did
It was
that.
once in a great while, my mom would get it, and it would be fun, but we'd always burn it. Every single time it'd burn.
I feel like every time, it was usually probably at a friend's house they would have it. It seemed like, every time. The smell of burnt popcorn would overtake the good smell.
Yeah.
So, Greg, I know for my family, we were probably one of the last families on the block to get a VCR.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I think it was a J.C. Penney model. And
did you borrow my mom's card?
Yeah.
Platinum card?
We did. Can you get us a discount? But yeah, it was a forehead, which was, I remember that was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
You know, that you could get the better quality on a forehead VCR.
Most definitely.
And even like the idea of tracking, like I don't think my kids would have any idea.
I forgot all about that.
But how certain videos, like the quality would fade in and out, and the audio would kind of bend. And all it's not even a consideration.
No.
Anymore, you know.
You just have to, clean off the DVD or get a little alcohol and
or if your internet connection goes down, you're like, oh.
That's a Generation Z nightmare right there. No internet. Oh my god.
Dad, can you reset the router? Yeah. So, but did you guys get a VCR pretty early on?
We did. We were pretty good. My parents love movies, so it was, we did get one pretty early on, and I was the one who set it up. They were like, "Here you go, figure it out." Yeah. How about you? Were you the?
Oh yeah, I was always kind of the tech person, and even to this day, like it's funny, we'll make a DVD for my parents of pictures of the kids over the course of the year for Christmas, and I have to turn the TV to the right input, and then turn the old they still have a VCR DVD combo, and get that DVD to play.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
And were you a Channel 3 or a Channel 4 guy?
I would say historically we were Channel 3.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know if I ever met anybody who did Channel 4.
Yeah. I think the only time we ever did was we had two different machines set up at the same time. Okay. And so we'd have one on 3 and one on 4, so we could just flip-flop a little bit easier without having to like switch.
Worry about
the cables or something.
Yeah, and I would have to bring in the cable, and it was a decision. Do you bring the cable in through the VCR? Because then you have to have the VCR on in order to look at cable. Like, you know what I mean? It was how'd you set up your rig?
Yeah. And it is crazy to even think about that. That like now it's like everything's just plug an HDMI into one of the ports and you're good. But back then it was like, well, am I going to use an RCA cable to connect this to that, or am I going to use a coaxial cable? And to your point, which is going to be first, which is going to be second? Can my parents figure it out if I'm not home?
And then the even old school, like with an Atari, you had that little, I don't know, it had like the two forks at the end to go into the old school antenna TV. And it's, what would it say? It would say like TV and computer or TV and game or something like that. And you'd have to actually manually slide it down.
Yeah. And there was a point, I think, where it was probably more me than anyone else, but we had so many things hooked up to the TV that I bought this, like, I think it was from Radio Shack. It was this little adapter. And I think it had 4 or 5 like push button switches on it. So you could go between all the different devices just by pushing a button.
You went fancy. Oh, yeah. That's nice.
Yeah. Well, I was a certified electronics specialist at Service Merchandise. So.
There you go.
So do you remember the first movie that you guys rented by any chance?
Unfortunately, I don't. But, it was a family thing, man. Every Saturday, Sunday, we'd, get a movie. And I think... It wasn't the first, but an earlier one was like The Godfather. I remember my parents were like, all right, you can watch this. Let's see if you can handle it. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Yeah.
Mind blown.
I do have a pretty strong memory of, when we got that first VCR, there was the local grocery store, I think it was an IGA, that was the closest place that was renting videos at that time. Mm-hmm. And amazingly, they had this video that was a skateboarding movie. It was called The Search for Animal Chin. It was put up by Pal Peralta, like Tony Hawk and Caballero and all those guys. And my brother and I were just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they have this movie. So that was the first movie we watched, was the Search for Animal Chin.
That's so cool you remember that.
Yeah.
Did you know anybody that had a Betamax? I
remember, I think more in school, that they had the Betamax machines at school. And I feel like a lot of them were red for some reason. Like the case on the actual VCR were red. I don't know why I remember that, but or why they were.
I remember I was like 8 or 9 years old, and way before we had a VCR. And a friend in my class was having a birthday party, and he was showing Star Wars. And we're like, how are you what do you mean you're showing Star Wars? Like, our minds were blown. Yeah. And it was such an event. Like, not only did all the kids show up, but all the parents showed up. And these people had money. Yeah. Like, they had an old school satellite dish on their front lawn, like
the big ones.
The big ones, And so they had it. I don't know how they got it. And I don't know if it was a Betamax. I'm not sure what, I was still young. I don't really remember. But and I don't know, maybe that was part of why I love movies so much, just how everybody was just entranced, and it was Star Wars. What was better than that?
Yeah. Huh. It makes me wonder if it was possibly a laser disc. Because I remember there were some kids, that the wealthier kids, they'd be like, well, we have a laser disc player. And
interesting.
And I just thought it was always interesting that there'd be an intermission, because you would have to actually switch the disc, because you couldn't fit all the entire movie onto one disc.
Now that you say that, I think we did have to take a break.
Yeah, maybe it was.
Maybe it was. Yeah. I wonder how much that cost back in the day.
Yeah. It does beg the question that I guess it probably preceded a lot of the video rentals, but if there ever was a store that rented beta or rented laser discs.
Yeah. Well, this kid also had a race car for a bed. He's like one of those kids.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never have a race car for a bed, Tim.
That was the dream, though, You'd see those commercials on, like, for Sears or whatever, and the kid would get in the race car bed. You're like, oh, a kid can dream. Honey, we're getting a new bed.
There might be a market for that, Tim.
Adult size king race car bed. Yeah. Put a Latch-Key Dad's logo on the side.
There you go. Maybe we get some advertising on some NASCAR.
Yeah. So I remember in college, obviously we had a VCR at home, but I wanted to have one at school. And so I worked at in an electronics department at a department store. And they had a VHS camcorder that we'd get products sometimes that would get marked down. They'd put it on special clearance. So I was watching it for weeks.
Just waiting.
And I think it was marked down to 90% off.
What?
So I bought this VHS camcorder for probably $27 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that became my VCR at college.
Because you could?
Yeah. You could play them through the camcorder. And then I won it was a little like mini sales competition, and I won a 20-inch JVC TV. So my college, setup was perfect.
You were banging, dude. Yeah. Now, this may shock you, but, I was like one of the coolest kids in high school because I was in the audiovisual club. I know that's surprising. But, part of what we did was I took the class. Like, you actually had to take a class. Sure. And I took that class every year. And we had to do these projects. So we had access to a pretty professional editing machine.
Sure.
And I learned a lot about VCRs and, all that kind of stuff. So we were able to take our video cameras with our VCRs and copy movies.
Sure.
We didn't go nuts. It was only like for fun kind of stuff. But did you ever copy movies or anything like that?
I feel like we must have, because we had the camcorder and then we had the VCR.
Right. License to print.
I guess. It's weird because I remember a lot of like those sort of things, like hooking everything up and all that. But for the life of me, I can't remember any one video that we made a copy of, other than like family home videos or something. Like my grandmother would be like, "Oh, gotta get a copy of that" or something, and we'd duplicate it. But
what kind of movies did you rent at Blockbuster or video stores? What were you like? What was your genre in high school? And
I feel like, especially at the end of high school into college, like comedies were my go-to. Yeah. Like anything that was stupid and funny, like Dumb and Dumber, those kind of movies.
Now, I had an older brother who helped me get R-rated movies. Okay. Because they were pretty strict back then. So my brother would rent me, like a lot of horror movies and things like that. Any luck on that end for you, or did they not give you a hard time? Like if you wanted like Lethal Weapon or something like that.
I don't really remember them giving us a hard time. But again, I had an older brother, so it's possible that I just was there with him and we always just got whatever we wanted because they didn't care.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Scott. I do remember, though, the occasional eating of a VHS tape where you'd go to pull it out and like the tape would still be like wound in.
Oh, and, nightmare.
If it was a rented video, I'd be there like, trying to fold the magnetic tape flat enough to get it all, wound back in. And fast forward, rewind a few times, smooth it all out, and hope for the best.
And you would take a pen to stick it in the hole so that you could turn the reels or whatever they are.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of how mechanical
Yes.
those old tapes are, it's pretty amazing that technology has changed as much as it has.
It's so funny, and the quality.
Yeah,
like you're like watching Star Wars on the old VHS, and like, wow, listen to that. And then if you were to side by side comparison it to a DVD or a Blu-ray or it's just not even close.
Well, even just putting it on a high def TV.
Yeah,
it's crazy how like it was totally awesome back then, and now you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we watched this.
I would say that I was able to take my boys to a Blockbuster when they were little. William must have been like 2.5, and the boys were like 5, and the one in Quakertown. So we went, and they can say they went to a Blockbuster.
Nice.
Because when they were first born, I was so busy I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But then when they got a little mobile, I was like, hey guys, let's go get a movie.
Well, I have like zero memory of anything when our kids were really little, but I kind of feel like I used to take the kids over to there was like a grocery store, and there was a Blockbuster like right next to it, and I would take the kids for the running of the kids at night, where I'd just take them to the grocery store and let them run up and down the aisles to kind of get
that's
tired.
A good idea.
So I kind of think with the Blockbuster right next door, I might have like alternated and like let them run around a little bit. But I was so tired back then, I honestly don't remember if I did or didn't.
It's all a blur.
Yeah. So I think it was in college, my girlfriend and I had rented a movie. It was called Don Juan DeMarco.
Don Juan DeMarco?
Yeah, it was a really bad Johnny Depp movie.
Okay.
And I had this little Subaru Brat. It was, just had the 2 seats in the front. And the video must have like slid between the seats or behind the seat. And I just assumed that it had gotten returned at some point. And then I got one of the like ridiculous late charge, like you owe us this much to replace the movie. And it shocked me because in watching the documentary, they talk about how there was a point where they just stopped charging late fees. And I guess that was like $800 million of their revenue that they just were like, no, we're not going to do that anymore. Like,
we don't need money. Yeah. We just keep it. We don't need our property back.
Yeah. So
that's wild. So I did, I was pretty good at returning them. There was always going to get hit by some late fees now and again. But I do remember one time a friend asked if he could borrow the movie I rented. And I was like, okay, out of, just trying to be nice. And of course, he doesn't return it until like months later. I forget, I don't know how much it was, and I never saw a dime of that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Like, thanks, Tim. I was so mad. I was like, that's it. I'm never going to do that again. Yeah. I wish I remember what movie it was, but it's probably some stupid like, Deuce Bigelow.
And to that point, like the Don Juan DeMarco thing, like they kept saying it and like, sir, you need to bring, I'm like, stop saying it. It was a terrible movie. I don't want to hear about it. I remember there's a scene. Do you ever see American Psycho with Christian Bale?
Never all in one sitting, but yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a scene in it where like they're comparing business cards. And he gets really upset because the one guy he just got a new one and it's like really nice in his opinion. So he follows him to the restroom and he's like making like he's going to kill him in the restroom. And then the guy turns around and thinks he's like hitting on him. And it like totally like, he can't handle it that he's like, trying to hit on him. And he's like, where are you going? He's like, I have to return some videotapes. So there's a period of time where my roommate and I at a college, our answering machine said, we're not here right now. We have to return some videotapes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. If a video store opened up a rental place, would you go to a physical video rental place?
In watching the documentary and like kind of thinking back to it, I think I would. Like there's still like a nostalgia. There's still a joy in like finding a movie.
Yeah.
As opposed to like playing the channel and just scrolling through like endless, not organized, AI driven, searches.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even this summer we went to the shore and my daughter wanted to get a book. So we went to the local public library and I got a like temporary library card. And so while she's searching for a book, I'm like, oh, I'll just wander around. They had a huge DVD section. And so I had found myself searching through the DVDs, and we rented 3 DVDs from the library.
Nice.
So, I mean, in a way, that's kind of the closest thing we have to a physical rental store. But I think I see a future where there are going to be some mom and pop rental stores that pop up here and there.
That would be cool. Yeah. With staff picks.
Yeah. I see Latch-Key Dad's video rental.
Well, if, listeners have any fun memories of, watching movies, Blockbuster, maybe you worked at Blockbuster, you had the awesome khaki pants and that blue shirt, if you want to send us an email, we'll be happy to check it out.
Yeah, definitely. You can always email us at dads@latchkeydads.com.
Be kind and rewind.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Tim.
So, obviously we're talking about Blockbuster, and I see you actually have what looks like a Blockbuster VHS tape cassette holder. What you got there?
It's actually the Blockbuster party game.
Ooh.
Which I think my wife got me a couple Christmases ago.
Okay.
And I thought, kind of apropos, check it out since we were talking all things Blockbuster. So you want to give it a shot?
Yeah, sounds fun. Let's do it.
Cool. I'll explain the rules real quick so we don't cheat. We're going to flip over a card that has categories, movies with something in it. And then we're going to go back and forth naming movies. And the last person who's unable to do so loses and the other person gets a point. And to kind of help us keep it fair, there's a little Blockbuster buzzer that we'll press that will count down in like 5 or 10 seconds. So when that time runs out, if you can't name a movie, you lose.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, I'm going to throw one caveat out there. You can't use more than one movie in a series. Like if it's name a sci-fi movie, you can't go Star Wars 1, Star Wars 2, Star Wars 3. You know what I'm saying?
Greg, such a stickler.
All right, and the first person that comes up, you say a title, and then you hit the button, and then that begins the countdown.
Okay.
Ready to give it a shot?
Sure. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Well, we both go at the same time.
Oh, right. Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
So it's the first person to come up with something.
Got it.
And then remember to hit the button.
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Round 1. Movies set on the ocean.
Waterworld.
Titanic.
Finding Nemo.
Pearl Harbor?
Sure.
Okay. No Googling.
I know, right? I thought I had one, but it's not. It's a TV show.
Gilligan's Island does not count. Oh.
All right. I was going to say The Deadliest Catch, but that's the show. What's the movie with, what is it, Matt Damon, where they're the fishermen up in...
Oh, that was good, too. Were they The Perfect Storm?
Perfect Storm. Yeah, I was like, The Deadliest Catch. No, that's not it. All right, so Greg, that's one for you.
All right. Ready for round 2?
Let's do it.
Here we go. Audience members, please play along and yell at us going, how can you not think of that movie? All right. Movies set during Christmas.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Christmas Story.
Home Alone.
Christmas. Oh, wait, no, that would be a sequel. That wouldn't count. How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Die Hard.
If you're going to go with Die Hard, I'm going with Gremlins.
Did you say The Grinch?
Yes.
Okay. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
That's a cartoon, not a movie, but we'll count
right,
it. We'll count it. We'll count it. How about Klaus?
Prancer.
Miracle on 34th Street.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Darn it. Oh my gosh. How can I blank? No. Did we say Elf?
No.
Elf.
Fred Claus.
It just came out and I can't think of the movie. Oh my gosh. I'm going to lose this and I should not lose this. White Christmas.
Oh, at the wire. Krampus.
Christmas with the Cranks. Sorry.
I can like see the stack of Christmas
I
movies.
know.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose again.
Oh no! All right, that was close. That White Christmas, man. All I know, just in my head, I'm like, come on, I know this movie. We probably missed like,
oh my gosh, there's so many.
So many. Missed, yeah. It's just like that ticking. It gets in your brain.
All right, one more round.
Sure.
Even though you've already won 2, let's do one more.
Why not? Here we go. Movies that have been remade.
Oh my gosh, it's like every movie ever.
How many have we talked about on this podcast? Yeah. Of course, now I'm blanking.
Seriously.
How's that possible? What the heck? Blockbuster has called and revoked our Blockbuster cards.
Seriously. I can't think of a single movie.
Oh my gosh. Come on. Ocean's 11.
The Flash.
Really?
Yeah, there was one in the 70s. I think.
Superman. I'm counting reboots. Is that okay?
Yeah, I did. So, Batman.
Spider-Man.
The Hulk.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was rebooted. It's like the same movie, but it's got a different name. I'm going to lose this round, Tim.
This is surprisingly hard.
Yeah, I don't know why. What the heck? I'm going to think of thousands of them now.
Yeah, we're going to have to like go through and make a list.
Total Recall.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, like almost every 80s movie has been remade,
right?
But I just couldn't.
It's pathetic.
Yeah. All right, we got to do one more.
One more round. We got to redeem ourselves after that. Here we go. The real round 3. That was a practice round. Movies with trains. Bullet Train.
Trains, planes, and automobiles.
It's a tough category, though.
A little bit.
Oh, Back to the Future 3.
Oh, nice. Throw Mama from the Train.
Ooh, nice. Like any Western where they rob a train? Oh, Wild Wild West.
Oh, okay.
That's a remake, too, I think. No.
Snowpiercer.
Yeah. Okay. Hunger Games.
Oh.
Does that count?
Yeah. Harry Potter.
Oh, nice. Transformers the movie. With that one Transformer that's a train, a spaceship, and a robot.
I'm going to lose again. I got nothing.
I don't know if that counts. I think that's kind of cheap.
I'm gonna have to report card myself as Snowpiercer. I'm not sure if that's the name of it.
No, I think so.
It's like the train that's like just stuck going around the world because everything's like post-apocalyptic or something like that.
There's also the one that's like Train to Busan or something. I never saw. It's a zombie apocalypse movie.
Yeah.
Should we do one more?
Let's do one more.
One more.
This is fun.
Way to go, Blockbuster.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Movies beginning with W. World War Z.
Oh, okay. I already said it, but Waterworld.
Ooh. When Harry Met Sally.
Wayne's World.
Yeah. No, I kept coming up with like TV shows and songs. I was going to say While My Guitar Gently Weeps, but
I was going to say Werewolves of London. I'm like, no, that's a song. Like Wednesday. I'm like, no, that's a TV show.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
So now we're going to do the last one, Tim. Ooh, movies with a spy.
Ooh, okay.
Should we just say James Bond?
Yeah, it's like that takes out about 30 movies.
Yeah.
The Bourne Identity. No, is he a spy? I mean, technically.
I had never seen them, so I'll have to take your judgment.
I'm going to say sure.
It's the guy, Johnny Danger. Johnny. Oh my God, it's with Mr. Bean. Johnny.
It's so funny because I just thought of that movie, Johnny English.
Johnny English. Oh, which is actually the second one is not that bad.
Yeah, that's so funny though because I was like, I'm thinking of all the like real spy movies, and then for some reason Mr. Bean jumped into my head. It's like Johnny Cash. No, Johnny English. And then you're doing the same ones. So that's
so funny.
Yeah.
One more.
Let's burn the pile.
We've got 2 more cards here. All right, let's do it. You ready?
Yep.
Movies where someone goes to jail. Ocean's 11.
Ernest goes to jail.
It's like I see the movie, but like I have a hard time coming up with the name of the movie. Yeah, I blanked on that one, man. That was pretty pathetic.
I was gonna go with the Christmas Chronicles.
I didn't see that.
It's like a new Netflix movie. It came out like maybe 3 years ago with Kurt Russell. He's Santa Claus.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
He goes to jail. Spoiler alert.
I was thinking of the movie with Norm Macdonald. It's one of my. It's like work.
Dirty Work.
Yes, Dirty Work.
I have it on DVD.
That is one of my all-time favorites. All right, last one. Well, really, the last one. Okay, ready? Movies with Jennifer Lawrence.
Hunger Games.
The Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh, nice. Red Sparrow.
Okay, I'm gonna have to take your word on that one. Sorry, Jennifer Lawrence. I don't know any movies you're in. Is she in the Thor movie?
I don't think so, but sure, we'll let it slide.
Wait, who's the one in the Thor movie then?
She plays Mystique in the new X-Men, so it's the X-Men.
Okay. I lose. I have no idea movies that Jennifer Lawrence are in. I got Silver Linings Playbook. I'm a loser. Yeah. I lost. You know more? You another one?
I don't think besides that, no.
Okay.
I'm sure there's some that are like pretty well-known movies, but
okay. Let me see if she was in Thor real quick.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Jennifer Lawrence is in Thor.
Are you thinking of Natalie Portman? Because she's in.
Oh, that's who I'm thinking of. All right. Well, this was fun, Tim.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Good fun game.
Yeah.
Can't get enough Latch-Key Dad content? Well, check out latchkeydads.com.
That's right, Greg. On our website, we've got a plethora of photos from each episode, as well as other interesting links to content that we talk about on the show.
Yeah, Tim, I really enjoy all the pictures that you put up there, as they really bring the episode home.
Yeah, I guess I'm not afraid to show those embarrassing photos of my childhood. So, yeah, we encourage you to check out the website, latchkeydads.com, for all that content.
Excellent. And if you have a moment, check out our shop page where we've got really cool keychains for sale. If you don't know what to get your dad for Christmas, the holidays, Father's Day, birthday, check it out. It's a cool gift. Tim, did you know that listeners should like, review, and subscribe to the Latch-Key Dads podcast?
No. But now I know.
No,
Knowing is out the